We've all got that graveyard of abandoned hobbies, right? The guitar collecting dust, that half-finished project. But what if quitting isn't your issue? What if your problem is, well, way more confusing than that? What if you look at your life and you don't just see one path, you see a dozen, and they all feel right? You're not scared of the hard work, you're just frozen by the choice. If that's hitting home for you, then you are in exactly the right place. We're going to break this all down. Yeah, this phrase, it just hits, doesn't it? It's that deep down feeling that you have all this potential, but you're so swamped by all the possibilities that you just don't move. It's a classic, and honestly, it's a really painful spot to be in, especially for a curious person. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to tackle that anxiety head on. First, we'll define the scanner's dilemma. Then, we'll look at why we're living in a wicked new world. Next up, I'll introduce you to the M-shaped professional. After that, we'll get practical with building your M-shape. And finally, we'll uncover your polymath superpower. All right, let's dive into part one. It's time to put a name to this feeling and really understand the pressure that comes along with it. So what's society's label for people like us? Oh, you probably heard them. You're a dilettante, or the classic, a jack of all trades, master of none. These aren't compliments, right? They're meant to imply you're unfocused, that your curiosity is some kind of flaw. And the anxiety that creates, it's huge. It can make you feel like your greatest strength is actually your biggest weakness. But here's the twist. The world that loved the hyper-specialist, the world that came up with those labels, it's changing fast. And to really get why your brain is suddenly at an advantage, we need to talk about the kind of world we're living in now. For a really long time, like the last century, the world was what you'd call a kind learning environment. Think of it like a game of chess. The rules are set, they don't change. The path to success was pretty linear. Pick one thing, go a mile deep, and become the expert. This world rewarded repetition, and it's what created the hyper-specialist. Here's a great way to picture it. A golfer plays in a kind environment. The ball, the club, the hole, the rules are fixed. You hit the ball, you immediately see where it went. But now, think about a firefighter. They operate in a wicked environment. Every fire is different. The rules are constantly changing, patterns aren't obvious, and what worked on the last fire might get you in big trouble on this one. Our world today, it's becoming a lot less like golf and a whole lot more like fighting fires. Now look, let me be super clear about this. This isn't about bashing specialists. We absolutely still need them. Their deep knowledge is critical. The problem is when that single path is treated as the only path. When that's the only yardstick for success, it leaves all the people whose brains are built for this new, wicked, unpredictable world feeling like they're somehow broken. So if that old model, that single straight line, doesn't fit, what does? Well, the trick is to stop thinking about your career in terms of job titles and start thinking about it in shapes. First up, you've got the I-shaped person. This is our specialist, right? One single deep pillar of knowledge. Super powerful for sure, but maybe a little fragile when things start to change. Then there's the other extreme, and this is the trap so many of us fall into. The dash-shaped person. You know this one. A mile wide and an inch deep. You know a little bit about everything, but you don't feel like you have real depth in anything. And man, that creates so much anxiety because it feels like you're standing on quicksand. And that brings us to the hero of our story, the M-shaped professional, the polymath. So instead of one deep pillar or a bunch of shallow stuff, you intentionally build 2, maybe 3 deep pillars of expertise. Let's make this real. Imagine your first pillar is data science. Your second, storytelling. And that connecting bar at the top of the M? That's all your other random interests, psychology, design, history. All of a sudden, you're not a distracted data scientist. No way. You are the incredibly rare person who can take a spreadsheet of numbers and weave it into a compelling story a CEO can actually use. That's a game changer. Okay, that sounds awesome, right? But how do you actually do that without just burning out or getting overwhelmed all over again? Let's get tactical. Let's talk strategy. It breaks down into a pretty simple 3-part strategy. Step 1 is what we'll call serial mastery. Step 2 is about leveraging a stable job. And step 3 is all about building an external system for your brain. So first up, serial mastery. Look, you can't build all your pillars at the same time. That's just a recipe for becoming that dash shape again. The key is to focus. Pick one pillar and commit to it for a season, say 6 to 18 months. Your goal isn't 100% perfection. It's to master the core 80%. And then you make a strategic quit. Now this is important. You're not quitting because it got hard. You're graduating. You're making a conscious choice to start building your next pillar. Step 2 is a huge mindset shift about your day job. We're often told we have to find our one true passion and make it our job. But what if that's not the goal? Think of Einstein at the patent office. A stable, low-drain job isn't a sign of failure. It's a strategic asset. It pays the bills, sure, but more importantly, it leaves you with a surplus of your most valuable resource, your mental energy. That's the fuel you need to build your other pillars on your own time. And that brings us to step 3, the external system. Here's a phrase I want you to remember. Your mind is an idea factory, not a warehouse. If you try to store every single thought, every little curiosity in your head, you're going to short circuit. You'll be totally overwhelmed. The solution is to build an external brain. Use a tool, Notion, Obsidian, whatever works, and just get stuff out of your head. Capture all those fleeting ideas. This frees up your actual brain to do its real job, which is making cool, new connections. Okay, so when you start doing this, when you build those deep pillars and you connect them with that bar of broad interests, something really incredible starts to happen. You unlock what is basically a cognitive superpower. It's a concept called far transfer. So a specialist gets really good at near transfer, taking something they know and applying it to a very similar problem. But a polymath, an M-shaped person, develops far transfer. This is the wild ability to see the underlying pattern in one field and apply it to a completely different, totally unrelated field to solve a problem. What does that even look like? Well, maybe someone who understands biology sees the branching of tree roots and suddenly realizes that's a better way to organize a computer database. Or a musician who really understands harmony looks at a jumble of software code and sees a much more elegant way to structure it. It's about seeing the underlying music of the world, not just the individual notes. And this is why all your random interests are so valuable. That obsession you had with medieval architecture, your weekend mushroom foraging hobby, they are not distractions. They are your personal library of metaphors. They are the toolkit of mental models that you'll pull from to have breakthrough insights that the person who only knows one thing will probably miss. So let's land the plane here. Your brain isn't flawed or unfocused. It is built perfectly for this wicked new world. It's designed to be a bridge between different fields of knowledge. You were never meant to master just one thing. You were meant to be the person who can see how everything connects. And that just leaves one question, doesn't it? What connections are you going to build first?